Your history teacher lied to you, not by making things up. That would almost be forgivable. They lied by leaving things out. And the things they left out, the events, the deals, the decisions made in secret by governments you were told to trust, are so dark that when you find out about them, your first instinct is to say, that cannot be real. Today we are opening 4 chapters of history that were deliberately kept out of classrooms. Not because they were irrelevant, because they were too important, too damaging to the people in power who needed you to not know about them. Everything in this video is documented. Government declassified files, court records, congressional hearings. This is not conspiracy. This is history. Let's open the vault. Event 1. Unit 7031, Japan's secret biological warfare program, and the deal that buried it somewhere in Manchuria, China, 1930s. A facility officially registered as a lumber mill employs thousands of workers. Locals occasionally hear strange sounds. Nobody asks questions. The Japanese Imperial Army makes sure of that. Inside it is not a lumber mill. It is Unit 731, and what happened inside its walls is one of the most documented and deliberately hidden atrocities in human history. Unit 731 was Japan's covert biological and chemical warfare research program. Led by Lieutenant General Shiro Ishii, a medical doctor, it ran from the early 1930s until Japan's surrender in 1945. What they did inside defies easy description, but you need to hear it, because this is exactly what was hidden from you. Prisoners, Chinese, Russian, Korean civilians, were used as lab test subjects, not metaphorically, literally. They were infected with plague, cholera, typhoid, deliberately to study how the diseases progressed in a living human body. They were called marutas, the Japanese word for logs, because the facility's cover story was that it was a lumber mill, and the joke inside Unit 731 was that the prisoners were the lumber. At least 3,000 people died inside Pingfang alone. Some historians put the total deaths from Unit 700 Eyes operations, including field tests on Chinese civilians, at over 200,000. And here is the part that should make you genuinely angry. After Japan's surrender in 1945, the United States faced a decision: prosecute Unit 731 scientists as war criminals, the same way Nazi doctors were prosecuted at Nuremberg, or offer them complete immunity in exchange for their research data. They chose immunity. The EUs wanted the biological warfare data for themselves. The Cold War was starting. The Soviet Union was the new enemy, and Unit 731 scientists had information about human pathogen interactions that American researchers could not legally obtain. So a deal was made. The United States secured the data with a price tag, not prosecuting those responsible, including Emperor Hirohito. The scientists walked free. Most returned to normal medical careers in Japan. Some became prominent figures in Japanese medicine and industry. In 1983, the Japanese Ministry of Education asked a historian to remove a reference from his textbook, stating that Unit 783 conducted experiments on thousands of Chinese. The ministry claimed no academic research supported it. That claim was a lie. And eventually, the evidence forced them to back down, but the damage was done. Decades of silence, decades of classrooms that never mentioned it. Event 2. Operation Paperclip. The Nazis America recruited after the war. This man's name is Wernher von Braun. He is one of the most celebrated figures in American space history. Father of the Saturn V rocket. Key architect of the Apollo program that put humans on the moon. NASA legend. He was also a member of the Nazi SS, and he used slave labor from concentration camps to build rockets for Hitler. Operation Paperclip was a classified program run by the United States Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency after World War II. Its mission was simple: find the best Nazi scientists before the Soviet Union did and bring them to America. Over 1,600 German scientists, engineers, and technicians were recruited. Many had direct ties to Nazi war crimes. Many had used concentration camp prisoners as forced labor. Some had designed the weapons used to kill hundreds of thousands of civilians. The US government knew exactly who they were hiring. In fact, the name Paperclip came from the method used to flag the scientists' files. If the file had a paperclip on it, it meant the person's Nazi history had been deliberately sanitized to allow them entry into the United States. Von Braun's case is the most famous. His V-2 rockets killed thousands of British and Belgian civilians during the war. They were built using slave labor from the Dora concentration camp prisoners who were worked to death in underground tunnels. Von Braun visited the camp. He knew what he was seeing. He went back to his work. After the war, NASA gave him a ticker tape parade. Operation Paperclip was officially classified until the 1970s. The full extent was not declassified until much later, which means that for decades the scientists behind America's greatest technological achievements were working in American universities, American government agencies, American corporations, while their actual history was buried in classified files. Event 3. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study. The U.S. government's 40-year medical experiment on its own citizens, Macon County, Alabama. The United States Public Health Service begins a medical study on 399 Black American men who have syphilis. The men are told they are receiving treatment for bad blood, a local term for various ailments. They are not receiving treatment, they are being observed, deliberately left untreated, so that researchers can study what untreated syphilis does to the human body over time. The study was supposed to last 6 months. It lasted 40 years. By 1947, penicillin had become the standard treatment for syphilis, widely available, highly effective. The study participants were never told. They were actively prevented from receiving it, including during World War II, when several were drafted and the government intervened to make sure they did not get treatment through military medical services. Men went blind, men developed heart disease, men died. Their wives were infected. Their children were born with congenital syphilis, and the researchers took careful notes. The study was only stopped in 1972, not because anyone in the government developed a conscience, because a whistleblower named Peter Buxton leaked the details to the press. When the story broke, the public reaction was immediate outrage. By that point, 28 men had died directly from syphilis, 100 had died from related complications, 40 wives had been infected, 19 children had been born with congenital syphilis. The US government apologized officially in 1997, 65 years after the study began. What makes the Tuskegee study uniquely dark, even compared to the other events in this video, is that it was not done by an enemy nation. It was not wartime. It was not hidden by classified intelligence programs. It was done by the United States government, on American citizens, in peacetime, by doctors who took an oath to do no harm. And they did it for 40 years because they believed the men they were studying did not matter enough to tell the truth to. Event 4. The British concentration camps, the camps that existed before Nazi Germany and were never taught. When most people hear concentration camps, they think of Nazi Germany. But the British Empire ran concentration camps on a massive scale 12 years before the first Nazi camp existed. During the Second Boer War in South Africa 1899 to 1902, the British military adopted a strategy to defeat Boer guerrilla fighters. They burned farms, they destroyed food supplies, and they rounded up Boer civilians, mostly women, children, and elderly, and placed them in camps. They called them concentration camps. That term, the exact term, was used by the British themselves. Over 45,000 people died in these camps. The majority were children under the age of 16, deaths from disease, malnutrition, and neglect. In some camps, the child mortality rate exceeded 50%. A British activist named Emily Hobhouse visited the camps and brought evidence back to the British Parliament. She described children dying of measles and dysentery in tents without medicine. She described rations deliberately kept below survival level. The initial response of the British government was not to fix the camps. It was to attack Emily Hobhouse's credibility. She was called hysterical, unpatriotic, a tool of the enemy. Sound familiar? The British concentration camps are almost entirely absent from British school curricula. The Boer War itself is barely mentioned. The 45,000 deaths documented, confirmed, undeniable, are treated as a footnote if they appear at all. And that is the most important thing this video is actually about. 4 events, 4 different countries, 4 different eras, and the same pattern every single time. Something happened, people in power decided the public should not know. And for years, sometimes decades, they were right. The public did not know. Unit 731 buried by a deal between 2 superpowers who wanted the weapons data more than they wanted justice. Operation Paperclip classified for decades while former Nazis built America's space program and weapon systems. Tuskegee running in plain sight for 40 years because the victims were considered expendable. British concentration camps simply left out of the curriculum of the country that ran them. Here is the question I want you to sit with. These are the ones we found out about. These are the ones where a classified document leaked, or a whistleblower talked, or a journalist got lucky. That is not a conspiracy theory, that is just logic. If governments have done this repeatedly, across different nations, across different centuries, there is no rational reason to believe they stopped. The vault is never fully open. Which of these 4 hit you hardest? Not the most historically significant, the one that made you genuinely angry. Drop it in the comments and tell me which buried chapter of history should the vault open next.